A significant drama is unfolding behind the scenes of the royal family. Sources report that one of its most influential members has categorically rejected any possibility of reconciliation with his brother, stating it would happen only over his dead body. This phrase, full of irreconcilable hostility, only underscores the deepening chasm between the two heirs to the throne, where matters of lineage and intra-family integrity are taking on an unexpected sharpness. Sometimes the truth can be painful, but its necessity is beyond doubt. These words, uttered during a recent royal event, caused a real stir, leaving observers in a state of extreme astonishment and insatiable curiosity. Though names were not directly mentioned, these remarks instantly drew widespread attention to long-standing disagreements concerning the origins of Archie and Lilibet, the children born to the younger brother and his spouse. Could these words be a veiled hint that the Duchess's pregnancy and birth story might not have been entirely truthful? Such statements not only provoked a media frenzy, but also plunged the ancient British monarchy into an unprecedented crisis of trust. Questions about the true origin and legitimacy of the younger brother's children within the royal line now seem not merely idle gossip, but a subject of serious discussion. What truly lies behind these events? Relations between members of the royal family and the couple who chose to step back from royal duties were never simple. Since the younger brother's spouse entered the royal circle, numerous disagreements arose between her and certain members, especially the elder brother. The couple, with their progressive views and modern outlook, stood out noticeably from other members of the royal family, particularly the elder brother, who always adhered to traditional values and the monarchy's stability. This fundamental difference created an invisible yet palpable rift within the royal family. From the moment the younger brother and his chosen partner publicly announced their relationship, their bond with the royal family became noticeably strained. The American, with her open lifestyle and public visibility unusual for the monarchy, faced criticism from many royal family members. In the eyes of the elder brother and some other figures, the younger brother's spouse's actions were perceived as a violation of centuries-old royal traditions, which demand strict confidentiality and scrupulous adherence to protocol. And though the younger brother's spouse made efforts to integrate, the couple's decision to withdraw from royal duties in 2020 elevated their relationship with the royal family to an entirely new level of tension. This decision sparked a global media storm. The public tirelessly speculated about the reasons that led the couple to renounce the privileges and responsibilities associated with belonging to the British royal family, while the younger brother and his spouse claimed they sought a free life, devoid of the constraints of royal duties. The elder brother perceived this step as a betrayal and a sign of disrespect towards the family and established royal traditions. The tension further intensified when the younger brother and his spouse began actively participating in media projects and publicly sharing their story. Their interviews, especially the one given to a well-known TV host in 2021, deepened the existing public divide. While the younger brother and his spouse claimed they were subjected to unfair treatment and immense pressure from the royal family, the elder brother and other members of the monarchy viewed their actions as disloyalty and a departure from fundamental traditional values. The atmosphere between the two brothers reached a boiling point when the elder, for whom the inviolability of traditions is the cornerstone of existence, harshly criticized the decisions of the younger and his life partner. However, the unfolding drama extended far beyond simple dissatisfaction with their renunciation of royal privileges. Persistent doubts, like an annoying swarm, about the authenticity of the younger brother's wife's pregnancy, coupled with the elder's barely perceptible but all the more venomous hints, shifted the situation to an entirely different plane. The elder brother's latest remarks, though couched in indirect reasoning, unequivocally suggested that the younger brother's wife might not have carried royal blood. This caused a storm of gossip not only within the narrow circle of the monarch's family, but also among broad segments of society, especially after the elder brother emphasized the paramount importance of bloodline purity and impeccable transparency. His words unleashed an avalanche of questions. Was the elder brother trying to sow seeds of doubt that the younger brother and his spouse simply fabricated the pregnancy story to create a favorable image for themselves? This is precisely where a whole series of doubts about the truthfulness of the birth story of the younger brother's wife's children and their legitimate right to inheritance originates. This captivating saga unfolds not only around questions related to Meghan's pregnancy, but also touches upon a significantly deeper issue, the purity of the bloodline of the heirs to the throne. If the emerging suspicions gain strong confirmation, it will lead to a chain of irreversible consequences that will affect not only Meghan and Harry's reputation, but also the unwavering foundations of the British monarchy. Questions concerning Archie and Lilibet's rights to inheritance and their legitimate place in the line of succession have rapidly become the subject of fierce media debate. Thus, the current crisis extends beyond a simple verification of the pregnancy story's truthfulness and transforms into a test of the strength of trust in the ancient system of power embodied by the British royal family. The situation reached its climax after Prince William's contradictory statements. At a recent social event, Prince William let slip a phrase that exploded public opinion, causing many to doubt the sincerity of his relationship with his brother, Harry's family, especially concerning Meghan, and the very doubts that hang in the air around the legitimacy of their children. William's comments, uttered during a lavish royal reception, instantly became the center of attention, prompting analysts to ponder whether these words contained a hidden subtext addressed to Meghan and Harry. Specifically, William stated, "Lineage and purity of intent within the family are more important than they might seem at first glance. Sometimes the truth can hurt, but it is necessary." Despite the absence of direct mention of Meghan, these words clearly resonated with the complex and delicate situation surrounding Meghan, Harry, and their children. His remarks not only caused bewilderment, but also prompted the public to consider whether William had questioned the legitimacy of Archie and Lilibet's position within the royal family. To fully understand the significance of these statements, one must consider the existing tension that permeates the British royal family. After Meghan and Harry decided to step down as senior working royals, they faced sharp criticism from other family members, especially Prince William. It was in this atmosphere that numerous stories circulated about Meghan's pregnancy, accompanied by a wave of doubt and skepticism. Meghan's pregnancy announcement in 2019 and the subsequent birth of Archie sparked a storm of questions and assumptions. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, the fluctuating shape of Meghan's belly in photographs, as well as her public appearances that seemed inconsistent with the state of a pregnant woman, only intensified suspicions regarding the truthfulness of the story. It is important to note that William's comments were not the first instance of him expressing his displeasure with how Meghan and Harry interacted with the media and managed their royal affairs. These remarks seemingly reflect William's deep frustration, as he has always placed immense importance on the stability and strict adherence to royal traditions. While Harry and Meghan sought to distance themselves from royal duties and create their own public image, William consistently defended the traditional values of the monarchy and considered maintaining transparency vital for its survival. The tension between the two brothers steadily escalated, and William did not hesitate to publicly criticize Meghan and Harry's methods of engagement with the media. According to some sources close to the royal family, William's remarks not only criticized Harry and Meghan's approach to the media, but also expressed his deep disappointment at the lack of openness in family matters, especially when it came to their children. Close friends of William shared information that he could no longer ignore the lack of clarity and long-standing doubts surrounding his brother's family and Meghan. Apparently, these doubts ceased to be merely a private family matter and have now turned into an issue that undermines public trust in the royal family. William expressed serious concern that these suspicions, if not resolved soon, could have a significant and detrimental impact on the reputation and credibility of the British royal family. Other sources suggest that after Meghan and Harry consistently appeared in the media, especially in high-profile interviews such as the conversation with Oprah Winfrey, William became convinced that they were using the royal family's image for personal gain. While they publicly criticized the royal family for a lack of support, their actions made William and many others feel that they were undermining the very principles that had helped the monarchy maintain its authority for centuries. Public opinion is divided on Prince William's statements. Some believe these were merely veiled remarks, uttered in a situation of extreme tension, when it became difficult for royal family members to remain silent in the face of growing doubts about the legitimacy of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children. Others, conversely, believe these words constituted direct public criticism, a hidden call for Meghan and Harry to provide convincing evidence of the truthfulness of their story. Despite the absence of official confirmation of a fabricated pregnancy by Meghan, William's remarks only added fuel to the fire, increasing public suspicion and fueling interest in the secrets hidden behind the scenes. Without a doubt, this tangled story involving Meghan, Harry, and their children will remain in the spotlight in the coming months, as unresolved questions continue to stir minds. While the public craves the truth, the British monarchy finds itself at the epicenter of a serious crisis of confidence. Regardless of the final verdict, Prince William's insinuations regarding Archie and Lilibet's legitimacy have already created a noticeable rift within the royal family. Numerous doubts about the origin of these children have yet to receive a clear answer. Suspicions regarding the truthfulness of Meghan Markle's pregnancy arose immediately after the public announcement of her expectation of her first child, Archie, in 2019. At that time, strange signs appeared, leading many to question the authenticity of the information. While the British royal family traditionally prides itself on strict confidentiality in personal matters, the high level of publicity demonstrated by Meghan and Prince Harry during the alleged pregnancy drew attention to numerous inconsistencies, which contradicted generally accepted notions of a royal pregnancy. Unlike other members of the monarchical family, such as Kate Middleton, who always maintained the image of an impeccable royal mother, Meghan created a completely different image, an overly free-spirited woman, sometimes even in conflict with established norms and traditions. One of the key points that caused the most suspicion was the irregular changes in Meghan's belly shape. Photographs taken during her many public appearances showed her belly changing in size, sometimes appearing significantly smaller, then noticeably larger. These obvious inconsistencies led some to wonder if Meghan's belly had been altered with technology or supported by other means. Despite Meghan's constant insistence on the reality of her pregnancy, the frequent changes in her belly shape raised doubts among both royal family members and the general public. During the third trimester of her alleged pregnancy, Meghan's active participation in public events became particularly noticeable. The public could not help but notice that Meghan continued to wear high heels, which is an extremely rare occurrence for women in late pregnancy, given the potential health risks to both mother and child. This circumstance provoked a wave of questions about the authenticity of Meghan's pregnancy and whether the events were part of a carefully crafted scenario to create a certain public image. Photographs from these events only intensified suspicions, as Meghan's movements did not correspond to the typical behavior of a pregnant woman in her last months. She easily bent, squatted, and walked in shoes that seemed completely unsuitable for her condition. Such actions raised serious doubts about whether she was indeed expecting a child, as they did not reflect the fatigue and difficulties usually accompanying pregnancy. As a result, unsubstantiated rumors and speculations began to circulate in society. According to some sources close to Meghan, those around her reported her anxiety and fears about maintaining the image of a pregnant woman. There were even suggestions that Meghan was not pregnant at all and had resorted to using a surrogate mother, concealing this fact to avoid damaging the royal family's reputation. Insiders hypothesized that Meghan feared exposure if she could not convincingly simulate pregnancy. Meghan's friends privately shared information about her apprehension regarding the royal family, potentially discovering the truth. These rumors quickly spread not only in the media, but also within the monarchy itself. Despite the lack of official confirmation from royal family members, there were hints that the use of a surrogate mother was not ruled out, given the circumstances. It should be noted that the practice of surrogacy is not new to monarchical families, especially in Europe. However, the key issue remains the lack of public acknowledgement of this fact by Meghan and Harry, which only intensifies suspicions. One report claimed that a royal family member, without directly confirming the truth, hinted that the idea of Meghan using a surrogate mother was not entirely implausible, given the circumstances. All of this suggests that doubts about the authenticity of Meghan's pregnancy may have some basis, although no official evidence has been presented. The lack of transparency regarding the pregnancy and birth has raised doubts among both the public and members of the royal family. The issue extends beyond a simple question of whether Meghan was truly pregnant and touches upon fundamental principles of transparency and openness expected of royal family members. If it is ultimately revealed that Meghan did not carry the child, the question arises whether she and Harry fabricated this story to protect their image and create the perception of a rebellious couple. Should this version be confirmed, Meghan and Harry's reputation would be irreparably damaged, and a deep crisis could erupt within the royal family, as the legitimacy and authenticity of their children's origins would be called into question. Meanwhile, suspicions continue to remain relevant, and sources close to the royal court put forward various hypotheses regarding the authenticity of Meghan's pregnancy. All these circumstances raise the main question: did Meghan's pregnancy story align with her public statements, or was it a carefully orchestrated part of a media strategy aimed at protecting the royal family's image? Answers to these questions will be difficult to obtain, but they will undoubtedly remain one of the most discussed topics in the future. Amid escalating suspicions regarding Meghan's pregnancy, and consequently the legitimacy of her children with Harry, Buckingham Palace could no longer ignore public opinion. Following increasing pressure from both the public and members of the royal family, an unprecedented decision was made to conduct DNA tests for Archie and Lilibet. This step was perceived as a necessary measure to verify the disputed information and restore trust in the monarchy. Buckingham Palace, whose key task is to maintain the impeccable image and authority of the royal family, initiated a request for genetic testing to confirm the origin of Archie and Lilibet. This decision was not made spontaneously, as it created an unprecedented situation in the history of the royal family. The request for DNA tests ceased to be a personal matter for Meghan and Harry, transforming into an issue directly affecting the authority of the entire British royal family and its unshakable status. According to sources close to the royal family, The request for DNA testing was prompted not only by doubts about the legitimacy of Meghan's children, but was also part of a broader investigation aimed at ensuring full transparency within the royal family. Many analysts noted that the palace's request for DNA tests is a clear sign of growing concern within the royal family regarding the veracity of the information Meghan and Harry provide to the public. Following the important decision to request DNA tests, Buckingham Palace immediately began internal investigations aimed at verifying the authenticity of Meghan's medical records and the entire birthing process. Some sources within the royal family pointed to significant shortcomings in the storage of important medical documents, including hospital records and certificates from royal doctors. This circumstance raised serious concerns about whether everything was as transparent and open as it was presented to the public. The palace tasked a team of royal doctors with thoroughly examining these records to ascertain the truth. However, the absence of key documents concerning Meghan's pregnancy and birth led some observers to suggest that perhaps a staging had been undertaken to create an ideal image of pregnancy. Despite the lack of direct evidence, these internal investigations only intensified doubts about the legitimacy of Archie and Lilibet's origins. As the DNA test results emerged, rumors circulated globally about discrepancies between Archie and Lilibet's biological data and publicly available information. Although official results have not yet been released, rumors of inconsistencies between the test results and official records only heightened public suspicion regarding the legitimacy of Meghan and Harry's children. William, in his recent statements, emphasized the importance of transparency and irrefutable evidence within the royal family, highlighting the need for clear confirmations to protect the monarchy's authority and impeccable lineage. His words became even clearer as he stressed that transparency and verification of information are necessary conditions for maintaining public trust in the royal family. While he did not directly criticize Meghan and Harry, William's statement can be interpreted as an unambiguous hint of doubts about the legitimacy of their children. If the official DNA test results are released, it could provoke a profound shock not only for Meghan and Harry, but for the entire British royal family. Royal experts agree that such a development could become one of the most serious crises in the monarchy's recent history, as it is capable of undermining not only the reputation of individuals or the family, but also jeopardizing the legitimacy and very existence of the British monarchy. At the epicenter of attention was the question of the consequences if the results of genetic testing cast doubt on Archie and Lilibet's biological relationship to Prince Harry. In such a case, their right to succession could be jeopardized, which would inflict significant damage on the royal family's reputation. Such a scenario could not only exacerbate internal contradictions within the monarchical family, but also widen the chasm between the royal court and the public. A lack of transparency in such a delicate matter could undermine the trust of subjects in the institution of monarchy. One of the key aspects of this situation is the question of the legitimacy of Meghan and Harry's children's origins. The British line of succession is a matter of exceptional importance, governed by strict genealogical rules. If it cannot be convincingly proven that Archie and Lilibet are Harry's blood descendants, their claims to the throne will become a subject of serious contention. This could not only negatively impact Meghan and Harry's image, but also trigger a succession crisis within the royal family. It is important to note that doubts on this matter arise not only from outside observers, but also within the monarchical house, among those vested with authority in matters of inheritance. Family. Members, particularly Prince William, as a direct heir to the throne, are concerned about the legitimacy of Harry and Meghan's children. All these factors combined create a critical situation that, regardless of the test results, will profoundly impact the future of the British monarchy. Questions concerning lineage, transparency within the royal family, and the legitimacy of Archie and Lilibet's origins will not go unanswered. Regardless of whether these doubts are dispelled, the royal family will once again face a serious challenge that will affect its public image and public trust. Amid circulating rumors about DNA test results and growing doubts surrounding Meghan's pregnancy, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex could no longer remain silent. Despite their desire for privacy and reluctance to reveal personal details, the situation spiraled out of control. Public statements questioning the legitimacy of their children and their royal lineage forced them to break their silence to protect their family's reputation. Meghan, who has been criticized for years, always insisted that she conceived and gave birth to her children naturally. She rejected all insinuations, claiming these stories were merely distortions of facts aimed at discrediting her and her family. Meghan is convinced that these doubts are part of a campaign to smear her and Harry, creating a negative perception of their lives after leaving the royal family. In recent interviews, Meghan emphasized that neither she nor Harry sought to fabricate a false story for attention, but merely wanted to live freely from monarchical obligations. She also categorically denied using a surrogate mother and called insinuations of a fabricated pregnancy absolute lies. Meghan stated that those who spread false information about her pregnancy demonstrate a lack of understanding and disregard for her personal decisions as a mother. Prince Harry, always supportive of his wife, also spoke out in defense of his family and confirmed the authenticity of all circumstances related to Meghan's pregnancy. He condemned those spreading gossip, calling their actions an infringement on the foundations of the royal family and the couple's reputation. Harry firmly stated that, despite all difficulties and criticism, he and Meghan would not deviate from their decision and would continue to uphold the truth about their lives. In recent statements, Prince Harry expressed deep concern about the spreading rumors, which, in his opinion, not only harm his family's reputation, but also cause distress to his children. He resolutely condemned the invasion of privacy, emphasizing the baselessness of such suspicions, given the respect he and Meghan have always shown towards the royal family. Prince Harry warned that the continued dissemination of unfounded speculation could further undermine the royal family's reputation in the eyes of the public. Despite all of Harry and Meghan's efforts to protect their family, their relationship with the British royal family, especially with Prince William, continues to deteriorate. William's recent statements regarding principles of transparency and matters of lineage have only underscored the deep disagreements between the brothers. William's alleged doubts about the origin of Harry and Meghan's children have only exacerbated the situation, significantly intensifying the already existing tension. Despite their blood ties, William's public statements clearly demonstrate a deepening rift. Prince William has not only not remained silent on internal family matters, but has also openly expressed dissatisfaction with how Harry and Meghan have handled the difficulties that arose. This has led to significant estrangement between them. Harry, in turn, appears to be quite reserved in his reactions to his brother's criticisms. Such a situation causes serious concern for the entire royal family, as the relationship between the two potential heirs to the throne is in a state of clear disarray. The increasing tension between William and Harry affects not only their personal relationship, but also the perception of the British monarchy in the eyes of the wider public. If an effective solution to overcome this crisis is not found, their relationship will face new tests, especially amidst intense scrutiny of lineage issues. Undoubtedly, this situation will have far-reaching consequences for the entire British royal family. The unresolved doubts and persistent tension within the royal family will inevitably undermine public trust in the legitimacy and stability of the monarchical system. The events related to Meghan and Harry's decision to step down from their royal duties have already caused significant damage to the monarchy's public image. Now, with suspicions about the legitimacy of their children's origins added to the mix, the situation has become even more complicated. The British royal family, throughout its centuries-long history, has faced numerous crises, from high-profile divorces to internal disagreements. However, the current crisis appears far more serious than any previous one. If the question of Meghan and Harry's children's lineage is not properly resolved and clarified, it will provoke a prolonged crisis capable of having a devastating impact on the monarchy's position in the modern world. Although disagreements among royal family members constitute only a fragment of the extensive mosaic of current problems, their impact promises to be long-lasting and potentially threatening to the stability of the British monarchy in the future. The emerging doubts about bloodlines and the obvious lack of openness within the royal family have placed Meghan and Harry's entire story in an extremely delicate position. Ultimately, for the effective resolution of these disputes and the dispelling of all suspicions, transparency becomes of paramount importance. Making public the results of DNA analyses and relevant medical certificates confirming Meghan's pregnancy could be an effective way to stop the spreading speculation and clarify the matter. If the Duke and Duchess of Sussex truly wish to protect their reputation and mend relations with the royal family, they should approach these issues with utmost candor and honesty. Such a step would not only protect their family, but also strengthen public trust in the British monarchy as a whole. However, continued silence and avoidance of direct answers only exacerbate the situation. The future of the British royal family depends on how successfully it can overcome these challenges. Only by demonstrating unprecedented openness and taking responsibility for resolving these pressing issues can the monarchy regain its authority and maintain a strong position in the public consciousness. The story of Meghan, Harry, and their children is undoubtedly far from over. But it is the decisions made in the near future that will determine the British monarchy's ability to overcome the current crisis. In the face of all the challenges it faces, the British royal family must acknowledge that transparency, accountability, and unity are the foundation for successfully overcoming any difficulties. The truth, however bitter, will always be the decisive factor that helps the royal family maintain its respect and authority in the eyes of the public. But all these events are just the tip of the iceberg in the grand drama unfolding before our eyes. The subsequent events surpassed the wildest expectations of even the most seasoned observers of royal intrigues. As the noise from the initial scandalous statements began to subside, information seeped from the depths of Buckingham Palace that made even the most cynical journalists hold their breath. Anonymous sources reported a series of closed meetings held in the most secluded corners of the palace. At these gatherings, attended only by the Crown's most trusted advisers, what was discussed was not just a family scandal, but a potential threat to the very foundations of the British monarchy. According to one participant in these confidential conversations, the atmosphere in the room was so tense it could be cut with a knife. Prince William, usually reserved and diplomatic in his statements, demonstrated a degree of unwavering resolve that courtiers had not seen since his father's ascension to the throne. His position was crystal clear. The monarchy cannot afford to exist in an atmosphere of uncertainty and doubt, especially when it comes to matters concerning the line of succession. One person present at the meeting later confidentially shared that Prince William uttered a phrase that forever changed the tone of the entire discussion. If we cannot be sure of the authenticity of our own lineage, how can we ask the people to trust us with governing the country? And these words sounded not like a rhetorical question, but like a battle cry from a man ready to fight for the restoration of the royal house's untarnished reputation. A true uproar ensued among those present at the meeting when documents, whose contents remained shrouded in secrecy, were presented for their attention. According to the information received, these materials contained the results of an independent investigation, conducted in the strictest secrecy over the past 2 years. A team of private detectives, hired through a chain of intermediaries to exclude any connection with the royal family, carried out a meticulous analysis of all circumstances concerning Meghan Markle's alleged pregnancies. This investigation, which cost the Crown an exorbitant amount of money, included the examination of hundreds of photographs, video materials, medical reports, and witness testimonies. The detectives thoroughly dissected every public appearance Meghan made during her supposed pregnancies, analyzing the smallest details of her appearance, movements, and behavior. Furthermore, they interviewed dozens of people who had access to Meghan during those fateful periods, including hotel staff, drivers, stylists, and even casual passers-by. The results of this investigation, according to sources, were so sensational that a decision was made to temporarily classify them until further confirmation could be obtained. However, even the minor snippets of information that leaked out form a picture capable of shaking not only the foundations of the British monarchy, but also public opinion about one of the most discussed families of our time. Of particular interest were the testimonies of medical professionals working in private clinics in Los Angeles. Several sources, independently of each other, confirmed that Meghan Markle had repeatedly visited specialized centers dealing with surrogacy issues. The nature and frequency of these visits did not correspond to the usual practice of women planning a natural pregnancy. One medical professional, who agreed to testify on condition of complete anonymity, spoke of a series of consultations Meghan underwent between 2018 and 2021. According to him, the questions the Duchess asked and the procedures she requested were typical for women planning to use the services of a surrogate mother, not for those intending to carry a child themselves. Even more astonishing was the information that Meghan allegedly consulted with theatrical makeup and special effects specialists. Several sources from the Hollywood industry confirmed that during the period of her alleged pregnancies, professionals specializing in creating realistic imitations of various physical states for the film industry regularly visited her home. One of these specialists, who worked on creating pregnant bellies for Hollywood films, later admitted to close friends that he received an order for a series of silicone prosthetics imitating various stages of pregnancy. Although he did not name the client, the description of the woman and the delivery address surprisingly coincided with Meghan and Harry's residence at that time. This information took on an even darker tone when it was revealed that the order included not only static prosthetics, but also complex mechanical devices capable of simulating fetal movements within the womb. Such technologies are typically used in high-budget films to create the most plausible scenes of pregnancy and childbirth. While the meticulous investigation was underway, a group of experts carefully analyzed photographs and video recordings of Meghan Markle's public appearances, striving to detect any anomalies. Experienced photo analysts with backgrounds in law enforcement identified a number of inconsistencies that are difficult to explain by natural processes. In particular, Meghan's belly shape underwent changes not only in size but also in proportions, which did not correspond to the typical course of pregnancy. Especially telling were the frames where Meghan performed bends or adopted a sitting position. Experts noted that the belly showed signs of a solid object, rather than a natural part of a pregnant woman's body. In several cases, unnatural folds and creases were observed, which could indicate the use of artificial devices. Additional evidence was obtained through the analysis of Meghan's movements. Biomechanics specialists, who study the impact of pregnancy on gait and posture, stated that Meghan moved differently than a woman in the late stages of pregnancy should. Her center of gravity, weight distribution, and manner of walking remained virtually unchanged throughout the entire period of her alleged pregnancy. Furthermore, an analysis of her wardrobe revealed a surprising fact. Meghan continued to wear high heels and tight-fitting clothing even at stages of pregnancy when it would have been not only uncomfortable but also potentially dangerous. Consultations with leading obstetrician-gynecologists confirmed that Meghan's behavior significantly differed from the typical behavior of pregnant women. However, the most sensational discovery was the absence of any records of Meghan Markle's pregnancy and birth in the medical archives of several prestigious London clinics. Despite the fact that Archie and Lilibet's births were allegedly supervised by highly qualified royal doctors, no official medical documents confirming these events were found. This circumstance led the royal family to seriously consider the possibility that they had fallen victim to a carefully planned and skillfully executed hoax. Should these suspicions be confirmed, it would mean that Meghan and Harry not only misled the public, but also jeopardized the very foundations of the monarchical system, which is based on principles of legitimate origin. Prince William, upon gaining access to the results of this investigation, experienced feelings that those close to him described as restrained fury. He realized that if this information were confirmed, it would inflict irreparable damage not only on Meghan and Harry's reputation, but also on the entire royal family, which allowed such an outrageous situation to arise. It was at this critical moment that Prince William made a decision that fundamentally altered the subsequent course of events. He ordered an independent genetic analysis, which was intended to put an end to all speculation and conjecture once and for all. However, this decision led to a chain of unforeseen consequences. When Meghan and Harry learned of the intention to conduct DNA testing on their children, their reaction was so tumultuous that its echoes reached the most distant corners of the royal chambers. According to eyewitnesses, Meghan was gripped by genuine panic. She frantically contacted her lawyers, publicists, and influential friends in Hollywood, trying to find a way to prevent the tests. Harry, in turn, made a desperate attempt to contact his father, King Charles, begging him to intervene and stop what he called nothing less than a witch hunt orchestrated by William. However, the king, who had long tried to remain neutral in the conflict between his sons, this time sided with William, stating that truth superseded family peace. This firm stance by the king was the final straw for Harry. Insiders report that he accused his father of betrayal and threatened that if the tests were conducted against his will, he would reveal such shocking details about royal family life to the public that would forever change people's perception of the monarchy. Harry's threats did not go unnoticed. In royal circles, feverish preparations began for a potential crisis. A team of publicists worked non-stop, developing response strategies for various scenarios. Lawyers meticulously studied ways to limit public statements by royal family members, and security services prepared for possible protests and unrest. In an atmosphere of utmost secrecy, behind-the-scenes negotiations began between representatives of Meghan and Harry on one side and members of the royal family on the other. The subject of these confidential meetings was the terms for possible DNA testing, aimed at clarifying questions of the children's origin, without attracting wide public attention. Meghan, acting through her lawyers, made a categorical demand. The test results, if conducted, must remain strictly confidential, regardless of the data obtained. Furthermore, she insisted on the presence of independent observers during the genetic material collection process to rule out any manipulation of samples. The royal family, in turn, expressed willingness to accept these conditions only if Meghan and Harry publicly disavowed all their previous accusations against the monarchy and issued a formal apology for the damage caused to the royal house's reputation. Negotiations reached a deadlock due to fundamental disagreements in the parties' positions. For Meghan and Harry, DNA testing seemed a humiliating procedure and an unjustified invasion of their privacy, while for the royal family, it was seen as the only way to restore their shaken authority and public trust. The situation worsened with the leak of information about the negotiations themselves to the press. Although the details of the discussions remained secret, the very fact that the royal family was seriously considering genetic testing of Meghan and Harry's children provoked a veritable storm in the media. Public opinion was divided into two opposing camps. Supporters of Meghan and Harry perceived the demands for DNA testing as an act of racism and discrimination, emphasizing that such doubts would hardly have arisen if the individuals concerned were white members of the royal family. A campaign was launched on social media under the hashtag #StandWithMeghan, calling for a boycott of royal events and demanding a public apology from Prince William. At the same time, a significant portion of the British public supported the royal family's stance, arguing that matters of royal succession were too important to be left without thorough scrutiny. Supporters of this view launched a counter-campaign under the slogan #TruthMatters, demanding full transparency on issues concerning the line of succession. Tension reached its peak when several influential British politicians publicly commented on the situation. Some members of Parliament stated that if doubts about the legitimacy of Meghan and Harry's children were confirmed, it could become grounds for reviewing the entire system of succession. Thus, a family scandal escalated into a political problem of national scale. The Prime Minister was forced to convene emergency consultations with parliamentary faction leaders to assess the potential consequences for the country's political stability. In this atmosphere of widespread chaos and uncertainty, an event occurred that forever changed the course of history. An anonymous individual, wishing to remain unnamed, handed over a set of documents to an influential British tabloid, which, according to him, constituted ironclad proof that Meghan Markle had used surrogate mothers for the birth of both her children. Among the materials provided were copies of medical reports, phone call recordings, bank statements detailing large money transfers to private clinics, and video footage, which, the source claimed, showed Meghan's visits to a surrogacy center. The publication of this information provoked a real storm in the media. Although the authenticity of the documents was not officially confirmed, their detail and internal consistency led many experts to concede their probable genuineness. Meghan and Harry immediately responded with a statement categorically denying the authenticity of these materials, calling them a meticulously planned fabrication aimed at discrediting them. They announced their intention to sue the publication and seek damages for emotional distress. However, their statement could not halt the rising wave of revelations. In the following days, several other publications released additional materials that, they claimed, confirmed the key findings of the initial report. Of particular resonance were the revelations of several women who claimed to have acted as surrogate mothers for Meghan Markle. Despite maintaining anonymity, their testimonies contained many details that would be difficult to invent. One of these women recounted how she was contacted through intermediaries and offered a large sum of money to carry a child for a very influential and well-known family. According to her, the entire procedure took place under conditions of strict secrecy, and she never once met the prospective parents in person. Another witness claimed to have carried a second child for the same family. Her account, contained even more specific details, including a description of medical manipulations, living conditions during pregnancy, and the circumstances of the child's handover after birth. These testimonies, although not officially confirmed, created a firm conviction in the public mind that the accusations against Meghan might have a real basis. Trust ratings for the royal family reached record lows, and calls for an official investigation resurfaced with renewed vigor. In this difficult situation, Prince William made a decision that many perceived as a desperate step. He announced that the royal family would initiate an independent investigation into all circumstances related to the birth of Meghan and Harry's children. This investigation was to be conducted by an international commission of experts comprising geneticists, forensic specialists, reproductive medicine experts, and independent investigators. The news of such a commission's creation was a true shock for Meghan and Harry. They realized that the situation had spiraled out of their control, and that continued resistance could lead to even more severe consequences for their reputation and their children's future. Under pressure from circumstances, Meghan and Harry were forced to agree to participate in the investigation. However, their consent was accompanied by a number of conditions and limitations, which created additional difficulties for the Commission's work. The investigation process dragged on for several months and took place in an atmosphere of unprecedented secrecy. Experts meticulously examined medical documents, interviewed witnesses, analyzed financial reports, and conducted complex genetic examinations. The results of this investigation, when finally obtained, surpassed all expectations in their sensationalism. Although the full conclusions of the Commission remain classified, leaked information indicates that many of the suspicions expressed were not unfounded. According to available data, genetic analysis revealed unexpected results that cast doubt not only on Meghan's maternity, but also on Harry's paternity. If this information is confirmed, it would mean that Archie and Lilibet are not only not Meghan's biological children, but possibly have no genetic connection to the British royal family. These discoveries sparked frantic discussions in royal circles about how to proceed with the information obtained. Some advisors suggested publicizing the investigation results to put an end to the story once and for all. Others insisted that publishing such information could cause irreparable damage to the reputation of the entire monarchy. Prince William, who initiated this delicate inquiry, found himself in a perplexing dilemma. On one hand, his efforts had succeeded. He obtained irrefutable evidence confirming the validity of his concerns. On the other hand, publishing these facts could not only ruin Meghan and Harry's lives, but also strike a devastating blow to the monarchy's reputation as a whole. King Charles, who had long maintained neutrality in this conflict, faced perhaps the most difficult decision of his life. He realized that any choice he made would have far-reaching consequences for the future of the British crown. After prolonged deliberation and consultations with trusted advisors, the monarch arrived at a compromise solution. The investigation results would not be widely publicized, but Meghan and Harry would be given a choice. Either they voluntarily admit the facts established by the Commission, or the information would be handed over to law enforcement for possible criminal charges under fraud. This ultimatum put Meghan and Harry in an extremely difficult position. On one hand, admitting guilt would mean the collapse of their reputation and the loss of all privileges associated with their royal family membership. On the other hand, refusing to admit guilt threatened criminal prosecution and the prospect of imprisonment. Ultimately, under pressure from circumstances and the threat of criminal prosecution, Meghan and Harry were forced to sign a confidential agreement with the royal family. The terms of this agreement were never made public, but its consequences became evident in the following months. Meghan and Harry virtually disappeared from public view. Their contracts with Netflix and Spotify were terminated. Charitable organizations ceased their cooperation with them, and their own nonprofit organization was closed. They sold their California home and moved to an unknown location, where, according to rumors, they live under assumed names. As for Archie and Lilibet, their fate remains one of the most carefully guarded secrets of our time. Officially, they are still considered Meghan and Harry's children, but their rights to inherit the British throne were quietly annulled under the pretext of their parents' renunciation of royal privileges. Prince William, having achieved his goal of eliminating the threat to the legitimacy of the royal line of succession, paid a high price for it. His relationship with his brother Harry was irrevocably destroyed, and he himself gained a reputation as a ruthless individual, willing to go to any lengths to protect the monarchy's interests. Nevertheless, in royal circles, his actions are regarded as necessary for the preservation of the institution of monarchy. Many believe that had it not been for William's decisive actions, the British royal family could have faced an even more serious crisis of legitimacy in the future. Public opinion on this story remains mixed. Supporters of the royal family believe that William acted correctly in defending the interests of the monarchy and the British people. Critics, on the contrary, accuse him of cruelty and inhumanity towards his own brother and his children. Regardless of ethical evaluations, the consequences of this scandal will be felt for a long time to come. The British monarchy has faced one of the most profound upheavals in its recent history. Although the institution of monarchy has endured, public trust in the royal family has been significantly shaken. The story of Meghan and Harry serves as a harsh lesson for anyone contemplating deceiving or exploiting the royal family for their own selfish ends. It clearly demonstrated that, despite the rapid changes in the modern world, some institutions are prepared to resort to the most radical measures to protect their interests and centuries-old traditions. This dramatic saga also revealed the incredible power of modern investigative and analytical technologies. What could once be hidden behind a veil of meticulous planning and conspiracy can now be uncovered through genetic analysis, digital technologies, and advanced scientific research methods. The question of whether Prince William's actions were justified will likely remain a subject of fierce debate among historians and ethicists for many years to come. However, one thing is certain. His decisive actions fundamentally changed not only the fate of his brother and sister-in-law, but also the very essence of the British monarchy, making it more protected from external threats, yet, at the same time, more closed off from public scrutiny. Ultimately, this story serves as a stark reminder that in the confrontation between personal interests and institutional traditions, the latter often proves stronger. Prince William made a choice in favor of the monarchy, even if it required sacrificing family ties and human relationships. Now that the passions have subsided and the main protagonists of this captivating drama have receded from public attention, one can only speculate about what other secrets the walls of royal palaces conceal, and what new upheavals await the British monarchy in the future. But one thing can be asserted with certainty. After this high-profile scandal, no member of the royal family will ever again feel safe from the intense scrutiny and merciless verification by those who stand guard over the crown's interests. This story shows us how far some individuals are willing to go to protect their interests, and how modern technologies can expose even the most carefully hidden secrets, buried under layers of time and sealed away.